Welcome back to This Week in Agribusiness. At the start of last week's show, we played part of the interview I had recently with Tracy Z, who serves as the president of the Waterways Council. Now, Tracy and I had the chance to talk about a lot of issues impacting users of the inland waterways. In this segment, I wanted to bring the rest of that conversation to you. I asked Tracy, what does WCI do?
Here at Waterways Council, we advocate for a modern, efficient, reliable inland waterway transportation system. So what does that really mean? Locks and dams, the elevators of the river, the infrastructure, making sure that commodities can get to market as efficiently as possible. By Washington, D.C. standards, we are a very young association. We're only 20 years old, but we also have a very broad, diverse membership. We have about a total of 185 members, ranging from everyone pushing the barges to the shippers with the commodities in the barges, to America's skilled building trades constructing the locks and dams, and also a couple environmental groups such as Ducks Unlimited and Nature Conservancy.
So all of these people have a say in the inland waterway system. And Tracy, could you tell us a little bit, broadly speaking, what is the inland waterway system? What's all included in that big umbrella phrase?
Absolutely. This is always the million-dollar question, right? Because a lot of people know the rivers, but they don't understand the amount of tonnage. We have about 500 million tons that move on the inland waterway system. Of that 500 million, 15% of that is grain. It's 12,000 navigable miles, so think New Orleans all the way up to Minneapolis. About halfway up, you got the Arkansas-Oklahoma MCARN system, and then you got it all the way over to Pittsburgh. And then also, right now, our number one tonnage on the inland waterways is petroleum. So you got the Gulf Intercoastal Waterway that runs Texas all the way to Florida.
Now, I understand over the past couple of congressional cycles, we've seen some investments, or at least on paper, into the locks and dam system. Tracy, how substantial have these been?
It's been huge. It's been extremely impactful. If you look at the infrastructure package, $2.5 billion was given just to locks and dams, 1.5 to coastal projects. So, you know, that $2.5 billion is going to fund about 2 to 3 projects to completion. It was supposed to fund about 5, but what we've seen with inflation and everything going on right now in the United States is, you know, all these projects have doubled. So what used to be a $700 million project is now $1.5 billion. So, you know, cost of labor, cost of materials, everything has gone up. So, you know, these projects are getting more expensive.
Does it look like the investments from Washington are going to continue, or what's the conversation happening on Capitol Hill with regard to some of these issues?
I hope so. I want to keep my job. No, we feel good. We feel, you know, this is a strong bipartisan issue that has a diverse group that cares about it. You know, everything from ag to petroleum to energy to, you know, aggregates. So we believe that the coalition that we have at WCI, the bipartisan support within Congress, that these investments are going to continue. But if you look at the future and where we are on this system, you know, if we cannot figure out how to get these locks built in 6 years versus Olmsted 20 or Lower Mon 20 years, you know, we're going to have to maybe potentially look at different options. But you know, the Corps of Engineers has provided a unique opportunity with the infrastructure package this last year, record amount of funding for construction of these projects, that if they can execute this construction program in 6 to 8 years, we're going to be able to modernize this system, and Congress will continue their support.
You mentioned 20 to 25 years on some of these construction projects. Tracy, is that how long it has taken in the past to get these ones done?
I mentioned the age of these locks, I'll be an 80 average age. You know, most of these locks were built during the New Deal era and in 1920s, 1930s. It took 6 to 8 years to construct them back then. You know, funding issues, environmental issues have caused some delays. But I think, you know, the Corps of Engineers is more than capable to get back to a 6 to 8 year construction timetable like we were 100 years ago.
But it's not just new construction that's up for discussion in Washington, D.C. There's also talk of dam removal. Up in the Pacific Northwest, 4 dams have been targeted for removal, and our friends at the Washington Wheat Council have said it's a big concern. I asked Tracy what the industry thinks about this initiative.
So the issue of removing the 4 dams, breaching the dams on the lower Snake, that would kill navigation. So one thing at Waterways Council, we're opposed to anything that will absolutely kill or impact navigation in any way. You know, the Corps right now does a salmon population recovery that has a 93% success rate. So we don't believe those dams need to be breached, but if that were to happen, it would have a major impact on all shippers, but especially, you know, agriculture out there. You know, getting to the West Coast ports via the inland waterway system is critical, but also the precedent of removing those dams and the potential of that going to the Mississippi, Ohio, or even the Gulf Coast inner waterway. So, you know, that would take tonnage off the road, and if you look right now, the inland waterways are the most fuel efficient mode of transportation, surface transportation. So all you're going to do is put more tonnage on truck and rail. And if we want to be a greener environment in reasonable ways that make sense, you know, breaching those dams would just raise CO2 emissions.
Thank you, Tracy, for that update. We'll continue to watch for alerts and news information about those dam removals across the Pacific Northwest. Folks, the inland waterway system is crucial for American agricultural markets, and I thank Tracy for taking the time to give us the details.